purtroppo.
It's recording now.
Okay, thank you very much, Lorenzo, for helping me in hosting the assembly today, and thank you all for joining. I mean, I see that most of you already had the chance to meet you, at least online, digitally, or through a call. And for those that I have never met, it's a real pleasure to see you all connected here tonight. As you might know, this is going to be one of the first assemblies to not only have an idea and an oversight on how the campaign is going. We actually just launched it, let's say 1 month ago, 1.5 months ago, after the Congress, and thanks to the presentation to the European Parliament of our petition. So we will, the assembly will be structured in this way. The first half will be mostly dedicated to an overview of what has been going on. I will start with some updates on the petition to the European Parliament. Then we will talk about the fundraising activities and the public consultations that are open and that have been monitored by some of our activists. Then, of course, we will leave the floor to you to contribute to the discussion. Especially there are a few deliverables that we have to discuss about, starting with the abstract, or let's say the short content to submit for the multi-annual financial framework, but then also others. And generally speaking, take this as an opportunity not only to have an idea of what's going on, but also to understand where you would like to help and support our campaign. So let's start, because there's actually quite much to talk about. First of all, as I said, the petition to the European Parliament was quite a success. I think that most of you received an update email. It was not only accepted by the Petty Committee, who left it open, it will also be submitted to the ITRA Committee, and in the meanwhile, the Petty Committee asked to the European Commission to provide further information about the topics that we raised. So we are expecting that the Commission, especially DG Connect, will give us some more information about what is already in place on the one hand, and on the other hand, what is going to be in place pretty soon with other public consultations. However, our presentation to the Parliament was shaped on the preparatory action that was actually drafted by Matteo Nicolosi, who's here, and to whom I would like to give the floor to introduce a bit what is the preparatory action about, what kind of action it is actually, what are the stakeholders it addresses, and how it could help us, give some shape to the campaign itself. Matteo, I think that you have access to sharing a presentation, so the floor is yours. I would ask you to please keep the presentation around 5 and 6 minutes, so that we have time to present also all the other activities, and then we can leave the floor to the activists to discuss what is going on later. Matteo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Francesco. I would just like to quickly introduce this idea that was shaped by Gianluca Misurata and I. Gianluca cannot be present today, so I will be presenting it. So the idea is that we want to promote civic participation in the EU and beyond, but not by, let's say, building new tools, because there has already been done a lot on the EU side to do that, but by integrating existing EU-funded tools into something completely new, and based on the principle that AI can serve public value instead of private profit, which is what let's say, the commercial tools actually in use do very well. So the idea is to prepare the terrain for a modular infrastructure that is designed to amplify democratic participation across the EU, but not building anything new. On the contrary, trying to make those tools that have been drafted already more usable, let's say, from citizens from different backgrounds and culture and from different languages, which is very important. So my first point is, why now? Well, of course, all of you know that there's been a lot of struggle recently regarding our democratic values that have been attacked by a different stance, let's say, that is coming from different sides, so both the US and China, but I would say that the US intensified their effort to wreck our democratic background recently, and so we have to react somehow. Citizens struggle to find and use existing opportunities, while the EU has done a lot to help us, maybe this is not yet enough. And we need to build an accessible, interoperable civic infrastructure that can be powered by ethical AI, also showing that AI can indeed help and foster democracy instead of wrecking it. So, yeah, as you all know, the commercial applications are a bit confusing to the citizens. And while, of course, useful, they are a different kind of experience from a civic and completely, let's say, citizen-centered tool. That is what we are trying to bring forward through this preparatory action. What we proposed is the modular infrastructure that will support democratic engagement at all levels of governance, including a civic assistant that is more or less a multilingual chatbot that helps you navigate legal and participatory tools, a deliberation engine that could bring the best, let's say, the top of the crop of what's already existing to foster inclusive public debates, a participation dashboard that can help as a unified access point for ongoing consultations and initiatives, and democratic data commons to support transparency and accountability from the EU side, and also to foster policy learning from the common citizens, and why not also, let's say, policy development from the policymaker side. As I already mentioned, rather than duplicating existing tools, Civic AI would integrate them into one-shop platform that could be built in partnership with civil society and local institutions. And we propose to pilot it in 2 to 3 member states to assess its feasibility and to further develop the concept. So each component will, of course, be tested with a small amount, but yet real users, and through an agile and feedback-driven methodology, ensuring interoperability, modularity, and trust from the citizen side. This infographic is a bit explanatory of what the tool would offer to the citizen. But what's the difference between this and other tools that have already been developed? Well, this would be civic first and not market driven, but this is nothing new. Interoperable and open by design by linking national and local and EU level engagement tools and initiatives in a coherent ecosystem with a transparent governance, and built as a completely public digital infrastructure. So rather than a project that then turns into something different and maybe also commercial oriented, this would be a scalable platform completely aligned with EU democratic ambitions. Well, this infographic we will go quickly through it as it explains the differences between this idea and any commercial platform actually in use. We propose to ask either to the Parliament or the European Commission for a tender or pilot project spanning from 12 to 18 months, this depending on, let's say, the available funding and the partners that will take part into this initiative. And I want to note that Gianluca and I, having worked with European projects for quite a long time, are very well grounded in the, let's say, environment, the ecosystem of EU-funded projects, and therefore capable of finding the right partners to develop such a project, should it be accepted. So this process would include co-design with civic and institutional actors. That means extensive consultations on how to develop it in practice, agile development cycles for each of the 4 modules that are part of this plan, and real-world pilot deployment. Of course, as I already said, we would be testing this with the real citizens in different countries. And of course, also the evaluation and all the documentation that is needed to support the eventual EU-level scale-up process that, of course, would go way beyond the scope and the, let's say, the forces that we can deploy, but would nonetheless be made easier by this first experimentation. So the idea is to develop a fully functioning prototype, including ethical and legal guidelines, and a roadmap for integration with existing frameworks and future funding programs, because this is also something extremely useful. And we would be more than happy to put our expertise in foresight and strategic consultancy consultancy on strategic decisions at the service of this very interesting endeavor. This is a simple roadmap of how this could be developed during the 12 to 18 months of the project. So the idea is to start from the co-design and then release the first prototype to be tested through a feedback loop, and then develop 2 different phases of policy road mapping, and finally suggesting the strategic plan to scale up and integrate such tool throughout the whole European Union. Well, of course, the idea is that Civic AI goes along the line of lots of different policies that have been deployed by the EU lately, including the AI Act, of course, the Interoperable Europe initiative, which is extremely important as it is one of the main tools to foster democracy in the digital ecosystem, and the Digital Rights Declaration, which of course is very close to our hearts, being us being humans. This slide is particularly important because it lists all the strategic features that this tool would foster by also complementing and connecting tools that have already been developed that are not completely deployed and used by the citizens because of the let's say, fragmentation of these tools throughout the spectrum of the EU initiatives. And, well, of course, this initiative would also help translating the EU democratic values into something tangible that would oppose the commercial tools that are currently available and that, well, are, I would say, more than fostering, transforming our socio-economical texture. Well, and finally, of course, to help, this tool would be useful to help create a more responsive and transparent European democracy. So the idea is not automating democracy. That's not what we want. We are absolutely pro-human in the loop, but AI can definitely enhance human capacities and help build a more resilient kind of democracy if it's used in the right way. and if citizens are educated to use it in the right way. So our idea is to build a practical, testable proposal for AI to strengthen democracy and put it to work for our much needed democratic renewal. I think my time has expired, so thank you for your kind attention. Here are my contacts, and I'm happy to discuss this with any of you who's willing to help us develop this proposal further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matteo. I think that the presentation was, I mean, it ran a bit out of time, but because it was quite complex, the subject and the project you're proposing. So I think it was, at the end of the day, worthy of getting some more time. What I do think it's important for us, and I would ask any of you to keep it in mind for our later discussion, is how to participate, to take the lead, or how to better frame this project. Is this something that we could think of doing as part of an Horizon consortium for the upcoming call? Maybe also Matteo will leave you the floor later to give us some ideas on that and what you had in mind given your expertise in European projects, or if it is something that we could use, since it has been so well described, to push and lobby at the European institution, because one of them takes the lead into this. I do think this is really important in terms of how to structure a campaign so far. But after this, I would like to give the floor to our fundraising team. Here I see Ioana Karagiozov, who has been, let's say, managing most of the activities on fundraising, and also Alessandro Padovan. They have been looking into the open European calls for tenders in the last month. They will give you some updates on what they found, what is interesting, and also what are the next steps. But since they have been working on this much more than I did, I would more than gladly leave the floor to Ioana and Alessandro.
Thank you, Francesco. I hope you can all see my screen. I will be very brief, and please, Mariangela and Alessandro, feel free to step in at any point during the presentation. So we want to give you a little bit the taste of what we started doing, and then our main point of discussion will be a call to action, let's say. So we need your expertise, we need your knowledge, and we need it now and as soon as possible to get started and speed up the process of finding new calls that could help us realize the objectives of Eumans. So our priorities so far have been identifying calls for proposals through two main channels. I will present them later. And for each of these, check the eligibility criteria. So we are building, let's say, a knowledge base about the history of Eumans, and based on the budgetary and the staff, let's say, that we have available, some of these calls are not, let's say, available to us. Once we will reach a critical mass of proposals that are of interest to Eumans, we will start selecting the priorities for the upcoming months. And we'll see later that we plan on doing that more or less around June. And the moment that these priorities are set, our idea is to start building task forces that will allow us to create the proposals, to write the proposals. So this is where you will come in, let's say, into play within your experience for the proposals. But first, we need to identify those that would be most of interest to us. And since most of these projects, Francesco, before you mentioned Horizon Europe, but we're also exploring other proposals like cost actions, all of these projects require consortia of partners. We also need to understand how to create relevant partnerships for these projects to come to light. At the same time, since the fundraising team has started operating quite recently. We are also trying to create a platform and a stakeholder monitoring system. So we started looking into the EC portal, but we know that there are so many other different NGOs and services that provide all these call for tenders and proposals, and we are trying to put them all together so that it will be easier to streamline the process of checking once new proposals are out there, and to build, let's say, this, let's call it grant knowledge base. So put together all of our expertise and understand how to best develop the idea into, let's say, a project that is worth winning one of these proposals. And at the same time, we also need to work very closely with the, let's say, knowledge powerhouse team to make sure that we have all the relevant research and theoretical references that will be needed to justify our project. So Matteo, before you said that we are not building anything new, we want to scale from what has already been done and improve upon it. That's very important. So we need also to find a way to put all of this knowledge together in the same place and make it accessible the moment we will need to use it, be it for a project that requires us to create, let's say, more dissemination event, or for one for the development of the AI. So right now we are here at the very beginning at mapping and selecting priorities. We're trying to build this critical mass, but we'll also need your help, so brace yourself. And around June, we expect to start creating the task forces and start identifying some partnerships that might help us in the proposal definition. And all throughout this process, the idea is to build this knowledge base, both in terms of monitoring all the proposals and the calls, having the theoretical background and everything I've already said before. The main channels we are monitoring are civil society funding opportunities and EU funding opportunities. So we identified the ones you see between parentheses, but we still need to go in depth into the civil society ones. So from Mozilla Foundation, the European Artificial Intelligence and Society Fund, and the Center for Public Impact. And then for what regards EU funding opportunities, we have bigger programs like CERV and Horizon, and Cost Action, which might be an interesting fund for us, being at the beginning. And since we, let's say, AI, the civic AI doesn't have too much of a history up until now for Eumans, so that might be a good lead for us, as well as the Digital Europe program. Now, that being said, if you have any lead, either on foundations that are worth monitoring, so maybe they don't have open calls for the moment, but they might in the future, or you already are aware of open calls for proposals, then please text us together with Francesco's email, which I forgot to put here, but you all know him. So reach out to us, or you can also fill this form. We ask very simple information, the title of the call, as well as the link to it, and then we'll get into it and check all the eligibility criteria. Something I forgot to say, but that's worth mentioning, is that we are looking into these projects, but when it comes to checking the eligibility criteria, many of them were not available to us, either for geographical reasons or because they required, let's say, some budgetary requirements, which were quite stringent at the moment. So we need as many leads as possible to be able to identify the ones that might really help us get started. Mariangela, Alessandro, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you.
Yes, actually, therefore, take the chance to apologize for not including Mariangela earlier. I just didn't see her. She was already connected to the call. Mariangela also shared with us the IT for LIA, I guess, project, which is a new call to be monitored, which is based in Italy. It, of course, deals with AI issues and will probably give us even more grants and other funding opportunities. And we would also like to tell you that this is another lead we are following. Thank you very much, Ioana, Mariangela, and Alessandro for your work on this. I also take the chance to mention that, of course, after this call, I will share with you an email with all the materials and links. Ioana mentioned the Knowledge Powerhouse group. I mentioned this with some of you during the calls that we had in the last few weeks. After this call, I would like to share with you the link to join our community on WhatsApp to create some task forces on several different fields, but I will delve deeper into the topic later in the call. But for now, thank you very much, Ioana, again. Since you mentioned that it is paramount to find stakeholders, especially, let's say, credible stakeholders to pursue European projects, I would then leave the floor to Giulio Domina, who has done some work on the Horizon projects, and especially the stakeholders of these projects that dealt with topics that were quite similar to our campaign. So Giulio, I will give you 5 minutes.
Hi, everyone. Can you, yeah.
We can hear you and see
yes.
you.
I haven't really prepared any slide, but I'm gonna through all the document I prepared from the Horizon project. For those who don't know, the Horizon project are 100 billion of funds spanning around from 2021 to 2027, and I analyzed the governance and democracy part of this fund, which then was put into 6 real project and use case. We found to analyze the stakeholder first, and then the pilot case to understand how we can intervene as an advocacy, or how the project also can help us as a movement. And then obviously Francesco will share all the documents, but just to understand, I analyzed that we have, for example, Ithaca. Ithaca developed some deliberate, everyone almost created a deliberate platform to gather opinions through people and discuss about topics like we did in the last Congress and project. In this case, the problem of Ithaca that the platform is not open, is closed, and is used only for small pilot case. Then we have like Ideal use artificial intelligence to enhance Decidim. For those who don't know, Decidim is a deliberate platform really well known inside the European community, and it could be also an opportunity for us. And as you see inside the documents, there are all the stakeholders. We analyze with Francesco some priorities of the stakeholders that can help us, and we can help them through the connection that we can establish. And yeah, it's all this, like Orbis, for example. I analyzed the deliberate platform, which is really simple. It is based on chronological timeline where everybody first of all see the information of the topic, so all the participants can be educated by the topic we are discussing. Then the second process is a little survey, and the third one is like giving the opinion on the certain topic. Then IE is gonna enhance all the summaries and this kind of stuff, and to gather some, common knowledge for all the opinions about a certain topic. In fact, now I'm proceeding on the next steps, which in one end is to contact the priority, the stakeholder priorities, and on the other end is to analyze each platform through all the different projects to understand the difference between all the platform, and also to see if they can be useful for us as a movement to use it inside our groups. That was all. Sorry for no slide, but I think
No, actually, you did a great job. Thank you very much, Giulio. I take again the opportunity to mention, you see, like there are already a lot of projects going on that are somewhat aligned with our proposal, as Matteo said at the beginning, and this is the overall strategy that we would like to have. Is we want to catalyze all the energies that are in the field, and therefore studying what was already in place through some Horizon project was paramount to any action we would like to do, for example, for the preparatory action or whenever we would like to lead the campaign. Actually, Julia, I would ask you to share the screen again just for a moment, because you did actually a really good job in mapping the stakeholders. Would you like to share what you did
Of
on
course.
the database of stakeholders?
Yeah.
I mean, take your time to find the page. It's not a
Yeah.
problem, but I mean, this is also just to give you a use case of how we are proceeding in organizing. I think it's
knowledge.
no, it's in
communication.
No, it is in just give me a second. Public and human relations, probably.
Yes.
Contacts and partnerships. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There. One of the latest sheets, I think. Yes, Horizon stakeholders. Go on there. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. You see, we are trying also to use, let's say not really innovative, but at least digital tools to mapping and storing data about the possible stakeholders. This was actually all structured by Giulio, so I don't know if you would like to go a little deeper in how you structure all these analyses to understand how you're trying to
it's a really simple data sheet where you can find all the companies and the stakeholders that are involved through all the project. We can see and create new visualization through every type. So if we want to have a specific focus on a country, we can see ideally what we want to see. For a curious fact that Greece has most of the stakeholders for all these European fundings. What else? No, it just go through and you have all the contact and also the type. If it is a university, a company, a research center, it's really easy and was done by me, and also artificial intelligence, which is enhancing and making things a little bit more productive for everyone. And yeah, that's all. I don't know if you have any question.
I think that we can leave the questions for later, since we have already still a lot of things to mention. But thank you very much, Giulio. I would also like to tell you that I tried to use the same template for most of our database, of course, accommodating into the needs of the specific contact database. So we're trying to create some consistency, and also we should all thank Giulio to giving some template at the beginning to organize our contacts and information. Now, after exploring a bit the fundraising opportunities, and especially how to map stakeholders for other possible fundraising opportunities, I would like to open the floor to the discussion about the public consultations that are running and that we are monitoring. There are mainly three so far. The most pressing one is the multi-annual financial framework, because actually the deadline for submitting our questionnaire is tomorrow. It has been open for quite some time, but we wanted also to study a bit on how to participate and how to do that. And therefore, I will leave the floor to Andrea Melillo, who worked on this initiative with Daniel. I don't know if Daniel is connected, but I know that he cannot. He's not here. But
let me check. But I think that he's not here. But yes, everything I've done with Daniel. So let me present. Let me apologize also because my slides are far from being as much as professional and fancy as the ones that you saw before. But I think that I wasn't supposed to prepare slides, but I think that they convey the information that we need to discuss about the EU multi-annual financial framework. So first of all,
Andrea, sorry, just to tell you, you're not sharing the slides, I think
I'm not sharing the slides. So what I'm sharing, this can be very dangerous, actually. Let me see if I am sharing the slides. No, now I'm wondering what I was sharing.
Okay, now you are sharing the slides.
Okay, probably.
Let's give the question what you were sharing.
Confidential information about my analysis.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
We saved everything.
Okay.
It's recorded.
We have a picture, and we are about calling the police. So you can go on. No problem.
I think it was a text table. So yes, if you want to use it in your presentation, future presentations, you can. Okay, so let me go through the slides now. So what is the multi-annual financial framework? First of all, is actually is the EU long-term budget plan, and it spans multiple years. And now is currently 7 years actually. And actually, it defines which are the overall spending limits for EU policies. So this is actually setting policy targets and of the EU. So we are actually now trying. So let me go one step back. So by setting the overall spending limits of the EU, of course, it defines what actually we care in the European Union and which are our policy targets. Now, the current multi-annual financial framework, which will expire in 2027, it amounts for a total of 1.2 trillion. And of course, as I said, its main focus is on the COVID-19 recovery, the green and digital transitions. And now we are going through all the complex process that will define the new multi-annual financial framework that will start in 2028 and end in 2034. So just to give you a brief discussion about how it is approved, it starts from a draft that is approved by the European Commission, then it must be approved by the Council of the European Union, and then it needs also the approval of the European Parliament. So there are many actors in play, and that makes the multi-annual financial framework something that is really difficult to influence in some cases. But so the main question is, how can civil society and EU citizens influence the multi-annual financial frameworks? This can be done through different actions. The ones we are going to discuss today is participating in public consultations. Below you find also some of the tools that has been used in the past from others, organizations, NGOs, and think tanks, which is basically lobbying activity through members of the European Parliament or through petitions and ECIs. And of course, the collaboration with and the network with others, organizations and think tanks, of course, can amplify the impact of their action. But let's now, as Francesca has said, focus on the first bullet point, which is participation in public consultation, which has a strict deadline that is actually tomorrow, which basically the EU provides 7 different questionnaires in which you can actually answer to different topics about that go really, so multiple topics, and in which the EU asks for your opinion about what the EU has or has not done. But the main point of these questionnaires is that at the end of each of them, we can actually leave there is space for 500 characters text and for adding a proposal. So in this context, we were thinking about using this space to try to influence the multi-annual financial framework in the direction we want, in specific relation to the Civic AI. And this goes to the last slide, which is basically the abstract of the Eumans proposal. I ask you to read it and to give your feedback on it. I put it both in English and Italian. But basically, we are asking the Commission to provide the sufficient funds and funding to actually implement the proposal that we just discussed 2 slides before, and any other potential project that is related to the Civic AI. So please read it and give your feedback. If you have any comment, it's welcome, of course.
Excuse me, I have a question, Andrea. We cannot propose to change the threshold.
I think I mean, unless in this space there were no actually requirements on how to write the proposal. So I think
Because
the
one of the debate right now is exactly if the EU should increase the federal budget, the EU budget,
yeah
because this is about even the Draghi plan and
of course.
even the military plan and so on. So I think that of course one of the things that we could say is that democracy is the biggest and most important challenge that the EU should seize, should and then maybe we should start with the most ambitious proposal possible, which would be to increase the budget. I mean, I'm not quantifying now, but with the huge sums that would increase the EU budget, specifically destined to the EU to reinforce democracy, which is a technological things, but not only technological, and this could come to the dilemma if we propose the digital tools for democracy or a huge budget for democracy and a part of this budget destined to improve digital tools for civic participation.
I
So-
think, yeah.
No. So I actually agree with what Marco said. I think Andrea and I try to translate this principle into this wording, as you see. I don't know, Marco, if you also wanted to point out that we should raise the threshold, meaning I don't know, to the 2% as it is for the funds that are delivered to NATO or something like this. It can also be a symbolic threshold. Or did you mean something slightly different?
This could be an idea that even I don't want to play figures, but 1%, if it's a huge amount,
it's 10
but
billions.
but we could propose that this is additional, so not just 1%. So to increase the EU budget of 1% of the threshold that starting from the threshold that is considered now, and we could even propose two amendments. One amendment would be to increase of 1%, and this 1% would be destined to reinforce democracy, or in the second amendment that to use at least 1% of the EU budget to what is written now.
Okay, I think I understood that. I don't know, Andrea, if you wanted to
Yeah,
reply
I
to
think
this.
no, I think Marco's point is right. I mean, I agree with him. So I think we just need to figure out how to rewrite maybe this proposal. But I think that yeah, it's just a matter of how writing the amounts in relative terms or in absolute terms. So, but yeah, we can think about it.
Okay, so I think that we could also, we could also leave to the. I see a hand raised. Antonio, did you want to participate to the conversation?
Just hi, sorry, I am in the bus. It may be noisy, sorry. But can you listen? Can you listen me? Can you hear me? Probably. Okay.
Yes, we can. Sounding
yes.
clear.
Okay. One comment about the text, because what I understand here, what the goal is to increase the democratic participation in the EU, also across the states. But what I see here in the text, you mentioned to increase security and competitiveness. Is this related to the AI boosting, or is related to reinforce the democratic participation? Democracy will become an asset for the EU. Okay. As a consequence, the EU democracy, so the more participation will boost more EU security and competitiveness. This is what you mean?
Yes, the wording was chosen to try and find some common ground between some of the latest activities by the European Commission. So not only the Democracy Shield that will be mentioned later during the call, but the AI Content and Action Plan, which is a try to foster European competitiveness through developing stronger AI capabilities in Europe, and also, of course, all the discussions about defense and creating some sort of a European autonomy from the US, especially in terms of defense and security. So this was the overall idea. Of course, here we are trying to submit this proposal to the multi-annual financial framework, which is a strategic document, the strategic budget of the European Commission in the upcoming years. And therefore, we also want not only to push for our ideas, which is, of course, strengthening democracy through technology, but to speak the language of the Commission nowadays, so that our proposal could be more clearly not only in line with their priority, but more specifically, we could probably get an easier access to the institution this way. But of course, this is just the wording. Unfortunately, for this specific abstract, we only had 500 characters, space included, and I think that we already reached 430. So of course, the wording was limited by this. But anyway, of course, if you have, and this applies also to other people connected to the call, if any of you has suggestions or recommendations on how to change some parts of it, please do it. We can leave some time to doing that now, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes probably to participate and co-create this abstract, and then we can move to other things that we still have to talk about. I see that Giulio raised his hand.
Yes, really quickly. I think we should not change, but add the technology as digital public good, which specific more determine the term. And there is also the Public Good Alliance, which is an institution made up the United Nations that has big repositories of digital public goods, which goes into some other type of definition. Once you build a digital public good, everyone can use it in Africa, India, and there is an analytical framework how to build digital public goods and how to evaluate as well. And then if they are accepted by the Alliance, go to the repositories of the Alliance. That was also, I think we should just specify that they are digital public goods just for they.
Thank you very much, Giulio. Actually, I think it was an excellent call, so thank you. Does anyone else want to participate or to help co-create our message to the Commission? Unfortunately, we will not have time to submit it to you for a second moment because we have to close the call tomorrow for the MFF, but for other activities that we will dive deeper into later today, of course, we will share with you the links of our working documents so that you will also have the chance to give some feedback, with some more time to think about that. Anyone else who would like to step into the conversation? Marco?
Maybe I would not give up the formula Civic AI. Maybe at the end you could say will be destined to Civic AI systems to create a unified point of access to democratic participation. I'm mentioning this because in order to have an explicit link between the petition, the project that was presented before, and the budget. So the Civic AI formula should be the unifying formula of all the different action that we are trying to put in place. Because The decision that we have to take is what to do politically. So, for example, of course, there is the follow-up of the petition. If we ask to support our proposal, what are we asking to support? Because the project is presented to is an idea presented to the Commission to be funded. Even the fundraising part is, I mean, I don't repeat the presentation, it was very clear. If we ask political support from members of parliament, political parties, and so on, what are we concentrating, focusing on? This budgetary thing could be the thing on which we could concentrate. So I will make the explicit link with the formula of the Civic AI.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. I would also like to point out that Roberto Tagliento, who's a Eumans activist we already had the pleasure to meet in Brussels during the latest events, has suggested me another wording, and I think it's worth of mentioning. He proposes to change the wording at somewhat in the middle of the sentence. I don't know, Roberto, if you would like to share it yourself with the other activists.
I cannot share.
No worries. So, I mean, you can also just read your proposal.
Okay, I put into the chat the link. I have a different kind of approach because I don't want to ask to European Commission about to create a new project or do something else, ask funding for that. My idea is to invite European Commission to create a new, let me say, new UI IT foundation or agency for democracy. It's like a new agency, a new entity. This entity has the power to decide with the trusted people which tool must be maintained by European Commission, by Europe. Maintain this means that usually a project you have 1 year, 2 years to implement it, but after I think that a lot of time this kind of software needs to be alive, need to will be enforced every time during the time. So my idea is to create this kind of the foundation, a foundation that must be established, and we have a model already. The model, the foundation, it could be a Linux Foundation. I don't know if you know Linux Foundation. And Linux Foundation is maintained by all big IT company like Google, Meta, IBM, so on. And this Linux Foundation has to develop the software for Linux world software. So my idea is to create a new kind of foundation, but for only to create that kind of tool that are useful to the European civic to do the democracy. Because I already developed myself some kind of tool. We have a lot of private tools, but when a single person, a single company that create a democratic tool that there is no money back, let me say, it is very hard to maintain, so on. So I guess that this fund must be year by year maintained by European Commission also. So this is the idea to create a new agency, and this is something that the European Commission already done, because we have already some agency like ENISA, for European Agency for Cybersecurity, for example. We have European Quantum Computing Consortium. We have HCDC, Center for Disease Prevention and Control. And we have also ERISA, IT System for Area Freedom, Security, and Justice. So my idea is to create a new kind of this foundation agency that has to collect or decide in which tool invest and put on that the brand of a EU brand to say this is our tool for democracy. A tool must be open source and where every city, municipality, every also single person can decide to download, install, and use. And there are a lot of stuff we can develop from software, but we need some kind of foundation agency, trusted people that give the governance as a driver on where democracy, how to implement and give to European people. This is my idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Roberto. Before leaving the floor to Marco, I guess we need to reply. I do believe this is a great idea. It is also in line with the some rumors that we heard about the European Commission being willing to create a sort of CERN of AI. So let's say a center of research at European level for artificial intelligence and I guess other technologies. I know that you're skeptical about the use of the buzzword AI in every different field and topic whatsoever. But even though I do believe this is really important, since it has potentially a longer scope, I would go back a second to the discussion about the wording of our proposal for the multi-annual financial framework, and just giving the chance to mention what Matteo Nicolosi was proposing, so to change the wording as somewhat in the middle of the text, saying developing an ecosystem for AI and other digital technologies to be used as commons. You can see it in the chat room, so if there are no major concerns regarding the latest proposals. Are there any other ideas? I think that also Joanna wanted to share something, as far as I know. And then Marco, I will give you the floor just to close the discussion about the Institute of Technology.
I don't know how we are doing with the characters, but I was wondering whether we cannot implement the permanent technical body proposal at the end of the wording you shared with us. So that both concepts are there. Like it feels like the permanent technical body would be let's say an institution that supports, in any case, the proposal you shared with us, Francesco.
Yes, no, I completely agree. I would ask Andrea to share the slide if he still has it, okay. Oh, actually, Andrea was, was ahead of me, and he already shared in the chat the current text. So probably it's even better this way. Would you please double check it? And if anyone has anything else to add, I see Stefano Corona has raised his hand. Would you like to add anything on this?
Yes, I'm referring to the text, and in my opinion, we should reinforce the link between the AI and the results of the use of the AI by the citizens, European citizens. In the second sentence of the text, I would suggest to insert the concept of EU citizenship. I mean, the introduction of these tools could be not only reinforcing the democracy, but as a result is a step forward to pursue a real EU citizenship that is, I mean, to strengthen the sense of belongings of the citizens of the diverse member states to the European Union. So I would focus, I would highlight this link, and just to explain why we are insisting on introducing these AI tools. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefano. you have a specific wording to help us translate your idea into the text, and also to help Andrea who's keeping track of all the edits that
Yes,
we are...
I don't see the text now.
It is in the chat.
Maybe you can,
No.
if you have the space for the wording, you could put it when you talk about security, competitiveness,
Exactly,
and European citizenship,
exactly.
fostering or something like that.
Fostering this concept.
No, I just I have a very brief comment on the proposal of Roberto, and in part is also true for what Stefano just said. We are now talking about budgetary amendments for a very long-term period of the European Union. So the proposal from Roberto is telling something about how to do that. But the very purpose of the amendment is the degree of importance, how important the goal of reinforcing democracy, of investing in democracy is. So in a way, we want to quantify through the amendment how important it should become, how prioritary it should become. But then how to translate the priority to realize in practical terms this priority, of course, is a related task, but is even it is also a different task. Is the CERN model is a good one? Is the Linux Foundation the good one? I'm not saying that this is not important, of course, but through this amendment, we are choosing, in a way, the strategy of translating in figures how important the goal is. And then, of course, once you have obtained that, which is a huge thing, of course, then there could be the discussion of how to implement it. I don't know if it's possible to present more than one amendment, one proposal. Maybe, of course, we don't have much time because it's tomorrow, but we will have time also to work on this after through political relationship with the members of parliament and so on. There is the amount of money that we think that this priority deserves, and then the way in which this priority should be translated. Those are, in a way, two different things.
Okay, thank you, Marco. I actually agree with you. Anyway, we will try to, keep the wording up to the threshold we have. We will try to mention all the ideas that were gathered today, and we thank you for all your inputs. For what concerns the specific proposal of the Technology Institute, let's say, Roberto's proposal was also to run an ECI on that, and I do think it would be also a good way of catalyzing all the energies of the open source and free software community who who keeps Linux as a strong example on how you can actually make not only democracy but also technology participatory. So I do think there are a lot of options. Now we will try to we'll try to collect all your inputs and submit one proposal which is the most co-created possible. But now unfortunately I think I have to go back to our agenda because we still have a couple of things to discuss. As I left the floor to Andrea and to other during today's call to show the work that has been done, we of course have been monitoring another couple of initiatives. First of all, the Democracy Shield. I see that Davide Lancellotti is connected. Yes, he is an activist and he has been working on this initiative, and especially he studied how we can participate to it. In this case, the deadline is quite longer because it's gonna deadline is the 25th of May, and it is quite the same for also the AI content detection plan. So Davide, the floor is yours. You can share the screen if you want to, and if you need to, and just, you know, give us some hints on what this initiative is about and how we can participate into that.
Can you hear me? Sure.
Not too well. Maybe I hear you a bit low.
Let me try to switch microphone. Is this better?
Yeah, for me at least, yes. But no, I see some skepticism all over the place.
I have some problems with microphones. So,
so the one now it's better.
Okay, way better.
Yes. Now I cannot hear you, but still. Okay, so let me share. So you can see the slides. Sorry, I had some technical issues.
We're fighting for Civic Artificial Intelligence, and then Zoom doesn't let us show a slideshow.
Everything is lagging. Sorry for that.
No worries, no worries, not your fault. I was just laughing. Okay, now we start seeing that, even though a bit slow. But I think you can also start talking even. Okay, now we see it perfectly, I think.
Can you see and hear me? I'm sorry, but my computer is completely lagging, so
we can see that,
okay,
even though
so,
sometimes we see some
and I cannot
blocks.
hear you either. So it's another issue.
okay. Better. Okay, so if you can see the screen. So basically the type of consultation that the Commission is opening now on the European Democratic Shield. It would be like a consultation to inform a type of initiative of the Commission, which is a communication from the Commission to the European Parliament, the Council, and other institutions. This is not a legislative policy instrument, but is usually used from the Commission to articulate its position or outline strategic objectives. And as it was said by Francesco, indeed it will close on 26th of May. So we still have some time for that. Let's say that this type of initiative comes from the political guidelines set by von der Leyen for these 5 years. And it would be like the main topic that we'll address is to respond to challenges, increase resilience on democratic system society posed by disinformation. So as it is advised by the guidelines, the main objective of this is to tackle disinformation, which is perceived as a threat to democracy. And this is the main focus that was set in the guidelines. But, and so they want to address this by increasing digital media literacy, by also fostering a European network of fact checkers, ensuring digital enforcement with the Digital Service Act, which sets some responsibility for big platforms to identify and tackle disinformation, and also to address deepfakes through the requirements set in the AI Act. In this call for evidence that was set by the Commission, and which can be like, we can send like feedbacks to, it is further developed that this information was not only a threat to the propagation of unbiased information, but also aims at undermining citizens' trust in democracy, in democratic procedures and results. So beyond preserving the integrity of democratic election, it also mentioned the need to foster democratic participation and engagement. And this is something that is particularly interesting for Eumans and the Civic AI initiative. It is worth, in my opinion, to further explore this topic. But as for a preliminary check that I did on the comments that are already been submitted to the platform, there is a general concern over the initiative going too much into the direction of countering disinformation, with the potential threat of hindering more than facilitating a plural and democratic public debate. So I see that in this sense, there is a potential for humans to advocate in favor of more active citizens' participation as a better way to increase citizens' trust in democracy and democratic institutions, rather than what is largely set in the document to be like just controlling information, practicing counter disinformation, etc. On top of that, in the document is also specified that why it's required an EU level of action that the Commission is proposing. And they say that it's basically, they highlight the dimension of these threats, which is often transnational. And so that member states will have difficulties to address this alone, and therefore increased coordination and cooperation are needed among member states and between them and the EU institution to better protect the EU. And I saw also this as a possible point for Eumans as a pan-European organization. So yeah, this could be also another important point. So okay, so the objective that this initiative, as I said, set is to promote democracy, and it's basically set for different level of action, which are basically countering disinformation, as I said, and for information manipulation and interference, ensuring the fairness and integrity of the electoral process and strengthening democratic frameworks and checks and balance, including free, plural, independent media and civil society organization, which is something that is also relevant to us. Then they also specify strengthening societal resilience and preparedness, including media and digital literacy, critical thinking, etc. And another point that is explicitly mentioned is fostering citizen participation and engagement, which is also quite relevant. Lastly, it is mentioned in the document that the Commission is planning to present an EU civil society strategy, which will support, protect, and empower civil organizations and human rights defenders, and will put forward action to step up the Commission engagement with them. This is something that should be checked, in my opinion, as it's potentially really relevant to us as well. The way the Commission is planning to gather inputs is differentiated. There is like this consultation that is open until the 26th, but they will also use the Eurobarometer to inform. There will be consultation with the member states in the Council. There is cooperation with the European Parliament Special Committee on the European Democracy Shield. There will be like consultation also with European national and political parties. And there will be also targeted consultation activities with key stakeholders, which includes focus groups and questionnaire, that will be also specifically targeted to civil society organization and human rights defenders. So here also is probably one of the other lines that we can take. And for the last So basically, this weight, it is just like a very brief introduction to it. We have to look way better into it. I had like just a few hours to organize all of that and to look into it. But again, there would be like space to check. There is still some time left, and so that was only meant to give you like a general idea on this consultation and on this plan of the commission. And sorry
Okay.
for the technical issues, but
No
my
worries. It
computer
was
is
not your
lagging,
fault.
so even the slide, I suppose, were not.
It was not your fault at all. Thank you very much, Davide, for the overview of the Democracy Shield initiative. In this case, there will be time for discussing that, especially I think in the task force working on that. But I wanted Davide to present the initiative and just to give an idea of how we could participate in this kind of public consultations, and of course to raise your interest if anyone would like to join Davide and share tasks in providing good feedback for the commission, and then monitoring also the outcomes. Of course, these initiatives, this is the same also for the multi-annual financial framework and the AI Continent Action Plan that I will briefly introduce you just after this session. There is not only the moment when we have to submit a proposal, but then we also have to monitor and try to create, as Davide was mentioning, but also others, I can say fruitful partnerships with relevant stakeholders to pursue our initiatives. We are trying to do this with petition to the European Parliament. Of course, the more consultations we do, the more we will try and reach out to the relevant actors in the field.
Also relevant to this is the
excuse
fact
me?
that beside, I said that maybe something that is also relevant to this is those kind of consultation are open to everyone. So besides of even a contribution as a humans, everyone can also as a citizen give his own opinion and provide it. So this, I don't know if
Yeah, I do think this is extremely relevant, and thanks for pointing it out. Actually, this would also be relevant to be kept in mind when we define a strategy for participating to this open call, because, I mean, of course, we can make a statement as humans, but then if we can build a sort of, political momentum with participations that are slightly different, but with the same keywords or the same values shared by different citizens and other activists, probably we would also be more able to influence the agenda. But then again, Davide, I haven't mentioned it earlier, has some experience in lobbying, especially in digital policies at the EU. So I think that you would be the best person to follow this initiative and to provide us with some feedback on how to effectively pursue our initiative at the European level. Again, there will be time, or there will be the chance to discuss that. Probably the most effective way of giving you the chance to contributing and co-creating this, let's say this, what we will submit to the call is to share with you a link of a working document with all the elements that are supposed to be proposed to the Commission for participating to this call, and then you will help us, change the wording with an exercise which is really similar to what we did for the multi-annual financial framework. Now, since we only have 10 minutes left, I would go really briefly into the AI Continent Action Plan. Unfortunately, the activist Francesco Ottaviano, who worked mostly on this, on studying this initiative, couldn't connect because of work-related issues. But anyway, here we have slightly more time because there are two deadlines on June the 4th. And another public consultation will open in May, and it is not open yet. The AI Continent Action Plan, maybe some of you know about that, is, let's say, the European strategy for improving AI capabilities, developing, I guess, 15 AI factories and 5 gigafactories of all Europe. Of course, it is perceived as a as a competitiveness and also autonomy asset for developing real European technologies and sovereign technology. At the same time, it is composed of 3 main open consultations. One for the cloud and AI development plan, another one for the apply AI plan, and these two are the first one to come. The deadline is the June the 4th, and then there will be also the data union strategy to be open in May. So I guess in the upcoming days, it will be open for everyone. You can see how strategic this is for all of us. However, given that, again, most of the work was done by Francesco Taviano, we will share with you all the elements of the information that you need to get to know a bit more what is going on in this sense. And especially, I would like to point out that the Data UNO strategy is the place where we could try and push for what we call the civic data commons or democracy data commons. It is one of the strategic strands of the participatory action that was introduced to you by Matteo at the very beginning of this call. And of course, in this case, since it is so close to our campaign, we will try to accommodate the texts and to make them even more in line with the specific requirements of every call. And again, we will see the same follow-up process. So we submit some documents or we submit some text. We will try also to engage with you and probably ask for your help in providing even more, let's say, weight and more momentum to our political claims. And then we try to follow up, building strategic partnerships and so on and so forth. Now, just let me close the session with a couple of remarks. As you have noticed, there was already quite a lot going on during our campaign. Okay, thank you, Antonio. We will for sure keep you posted. And actually, we need also people with your experience in lobbying. So please, let's keep in touch. Anyway, I said during this call, we were mostly focused either on policy-related issues or on fundraising issues, because of course, these were the first two things to keep in mind. On the one hand, for the deadlines, on the other one for, I can say, ensuring the financial sustainability of the campaign. And these are, of course, the major priorities so far. But a campaign is not only done through public consultations or behind-the-door discussions or projects and whatever. It is, of course, done with the mobilization of the pan-European network of activists, and especially the pan-European civic tech community, given the specific topic that we are mentioning. Eumans is not only providing this kind, not only performing consultations and, I can say, policy proposals at the EU level, but we would like to be a movement, a pan-European movement for participatory democracy, and therefore we have to engage with citizens and make them participate. And so there are other strands of activities that I would like to launch as soon as possible. Some of you have already been contacted with this in mind. I mentioned marketing, I mentioned communications, I mentioned also the knowledge powerhouse. I mean, most of you already gave me the availability for being put into specific task forces and working groups, and I will do that tomorrow or anyway in the upcoming days. And then I will also share the link to the WhatsApp community that we are slowly building in the follow-up email after this meeting, so that you can also check if you would like to be involved in other groups, depending on your availability and your passion, and also depending on what, I don't know, what interested you during this call. I would sincerely not only thank you for your attention today, for staying with us for almost 1 hour and a half, discussing also technical and very detailed issues, but especially for your availability and your support for the campaign. And I would for sure invite you to be as proactive as you would like to. This campaign aims to be co-created with you, and therefore we are, of course, open to any proposal depending on the possibilities that we have. But again, be proactive. We would love to hear from you as soon as possible, and the other ideas. Let's, well, that said, I open the floor to some last minute questions, doubts, comments. Would you like to add anything to this? I see silence, I hear silence. So I think that we either have been extremely clear or we have only been completely overwhelming during the call. But anyway, there will be time to also delve deeper into any specific task and any specific strand of our campaign. Thank you again. It has been a real pleasure, and I will love to work with you in the upcoming months to even strengthening our campaign. Thank you again, and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Grazie,
Bye-bye.
ciao. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Buona serata.